name is Mark Stiles, and today I'm going to introduce you to a tool called the TestStar. Now the TestStar is something that I've been building for 4 years, and what it does is it runs unit tests. Some of these unit tests make web requests, making them web tests. Now this is packaged up into a Sitecore module, so if you want to get your hands on it, jump over to the Sitecore marketplace, type in Sitecore TestStar, give it a moment, and in the suggested results, the first you should see is the TestStar. When you get to the module page, what you'll want to be doing is downloading the package. There are two. One is a full install, which includes all the files and the content. The other is just the content. This allows you the flexibility to be able to deploy the file system separately from the content if need be. One thing I want to note here is that using the TestStar will require PowerShell 3. Check your versions and make sure you're up to at least 3. So what you're installing is a Sitecore website. And it comes with the file system in the Sitecore modules folder. It comes with the content tree, it comes with binaries, and it comes with a config. I'm going to show you that config quickly, just because there are parts of that you should know. Here is where the host name is defined, the content path, and these variables here are GUIDs, which are allowing you to jump in to grab content and filter content by its type. In the event that you want to be able to duplicate the content tree or recreate it, you would probably want to come in here and be able to define it separately. Now, let's jump into the content tree and see what it is that it actually installs. Of course, under templates, modules, there are templates. Under layouts, there are layouts. And under sublayouts, there are sublayouts. And of course, under the content tree is this home site node. And most importantly is this content folder. Now the content folder is where all the information that's going to be needed to run these tests is defined. The first thing you're going to see here, we'll go from the bottom up, are web test assemblies and unit test assemblies. Now there are two provided, one of each, with the tool, and partially to show you how it works, but also the unit test itself. Web tests are just a handful of tests that I've found that are just generally useful and useful for general consumption. I'll jump into those later to show you how they work. The text dictionary is where all the content on the site is defined, all the labels or the error messaging. Here you can translate it and get it to show in whatever language it is you prefer. The test results folder, as tests are being run, are being stored here, chronologically, and then by category. These sites and environments I'll get into in a minute, but first I want to jump into the Sitecore TestStar front end. So this is the TestStar, and here it's telling me that I have one unit test, one web test assembly. Good, okay. Now I've got to, this design I actually is really happy with, but I actually went to the length to make it also responsive. And the menu here works, so you can actually get some good mileage out of it on the go as well. Now let's jump into the unit test first. In the unit test, if you didn't know anything and you just came and you hit run, would at least tell you some error messaging, tell you need to select at least one test. Okay, so if I look here, I actually have a select all. If I click that and I hit run, let's see what happens. Yeah, okay, it's giving me a percentage indicator. Oh, and now it's giving me a summary. 24 succeeded, 1 failed, 1 errored, and 0 skipped. Let's take a look at those. Now here, there's 3 here with the same, and this is a class name, mock tests. One is pass, indicated by green, one is a fail, indicated by red, one is an error, indicated by orange. And it's giving me exception message. Now these mock tests are used by the other tests to make sure that TestStar is itself working. I don't need to run those because the others will. So I'm going to uncheck that, and now I'm going to rerun the test. Now it's going to say 100% of my tests are succeeding, and that's good. And now maybe I want to be able to generate a script off of this because I don't want to do this by hand every day. What I want to do is have it on a scheduled task or maybe run by a continuous integration server. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this TestStar unit test, hit generate, And here in this results, it's going to tell me that it created a file at this location. It's a PS1, which means it's a PowerShell script. So let's jump back into Visual Studio. And take a look at this script. What it's doing is it's creating an array of the categories, and then it's putting that array into another array of binaries, so that each binary has its own set of categories that can be run. Here I'm defining a domain. The domain is set to match the same as the config, but you can modify this to match whatever environment it is you need these deployed to. And what it's doing is it's hitting this web service, which is a file in the file system that gets installed when you install the package. And it's going to loop through all the arrays here and run each category test in each binary. And it's going to build an array of errors. And then if there are any errors, it's going to tell you how many and exit with a failure, or it's going to exit with success. All right. Let's jump back into the browser and see what web tests are. Now, web tests are a bit different because they require different information. We still have the ability to generate a script from whatever we configure, but here we're going to need to be able to define an environment and sites. And systems. Systems are groups of sites that allow you to select multiple sites at once. Same thing here though, if I were to run, you would at least get some kind of error messaging indicated that you need to do something. So let's go do that. Let's jump back into Sitecore and then create some of these environments. Now I want to create two environments. One is a local environment, and I'm going to give it a domain prefix of test dot, which is how I usually work. And I'm going to create a test environment called live. And this is going to be the general all-purpose www. Now I have the ability to enter an IP address that I think that this environment should have. Usually my environments are particular servers, but you can also override these at a local site level, and I'll show you that in a minute. Now what I'm going to do is create a test system. Like I said, test system are groups of sites. And this one's just going to be the general internet. And I'm going to create a test site underneath that. I'm going to call it Google. I'm going to say, fill up the domain. I'm going to say it's live, but I don't have it local, so I'm going to hit save and just leave it at that. Now, if I were to jump back into the front end and refresh this page, now my environments are showing up and my system's in sight. So if I were to select these two environments, hit run, I have to select one site. I can either do this by selecting it individually or selecting it as a group. I hit run again. Now it's telling me I need to run one test. Okay, I'm going to run the ping test. I'm going to hit run. It's going to say it succeeded one and it skipped another. Now it skipped the local because it found, as it's looping through the environments, that my particular site doesn't support that site, so it skips the test. But the live test worked. Now let's try an IP address test. Now it's going to skip again the local, but on the live it's going to say it's expected empty because I didn't populate it. But the actual was this. Now I have a way to be able to tell it what I think it should be, to be able to tell me whether or not my DNS settings are correct. Sometimes, not everybody has this problem, but sometimes other people manage DNS, and you need to be able to check their work. A redirect test will test whether or not the site is redirect. So if it goes to a domain and gets redirected, it knows that it is a redirect. But here what it's saying is that it's expecting a 301 or 302, but it was a 200. So that's just indicating that this is, it's not a redirect. I do manage a lot of redirects to different domains, so having to be able to test whether or not those settings work is important for me. Okay, so you get a gist of the idea of the web testing. I want to jump back in to the back end because I want to show you the now if we right click on this site, you have the ability to insert two things, an environment override and a property folder. I'm going to start with the environment override. I'm going to say live. I'm going to override settings in the live environment. So this is my live environment. Sorry, I wanted to name this one environments. So here I'm going to select live from the dropdown, and I'm going to give it a different domain prefix. Let's say it's something that's not going to work. All right, what I'm going to do is jump back into the front end, hit refresh, and see what happens. It's going to try to ping, and this time it's going to fail because it tried to browse to sample.google.com. Because for that individual site, I modified the prefix. All other sites subscribed to that live will still use www, but this one, because I've overridden it locally, will use this prefix. It works the same with the IP address. Okay, well, let's pretend for a second here we wanted to create a property. Now, properties are information that you want to be able to pass to the test itself, because as you're creating tests, different tests for yourself, you want to have, sometimes you need information. For me personally, because I run a Sitecore system, I like to be able to pass in the language codes that a site supports so that I can test each language individually. And this is where I would do that. Here you just name it whatever it is you want. In my case, I name it language code and I fill it out as English or whatever. I could fill it as convolute summative list. It's basically a key value store. On the back end, it would be up to you to parse this value into something useful. But those are passed in to the properties, which are a globally available variable in the web test. Okay, so now that we understand that there are overrides and there are tests of different types, what if we want to be able to add our own tests? Now, here I'm going to insert a test assembly, and I'm going to call it, name it after my data importer test assembly, which is already included into the project. Again, I'm going to go to the front end. I'm going to hit refresh on the unit tests page. And now I'm actually tracking this. And it has a handful of tests in it, which most likely will fail. Yeah, some of them. But it's giving you an idea how you would extend this. Now you can go into your project and create additional class libraries that are just your unit tests. Pass in, create an entry in Sitecore. I apologize, must have forgotten. Now if I go to, let me jump back a second. I didn't switch screen. Now, if I jump into the unit test, you'll see here my binary is showing up, and it's giving me all the categories. And I can select those 3 categories, hit run. Some are failing, and one is erroring, and most are passing. And this just gives you an example of how to create your own, add your own binaries in. Because as you're building class libraries, you can quickly create your unit test library, go in and define it in content, and have it show up here, and then be able to run it, and then be able to generate automated tests to run them all, which can be useful. So that's the TestStar. Unit tests, web tests. One of the final things that I should show you, though, is that all these tests that are being run, that are being stored, are being listed in this test results, and it's paged. So what you'll see here is this unit test that I was running that failed, the grouped by category, and if you scroll far enough, if you do it over enough days, it'll separate it by day. One of the most important things, though, is that if you're automating your tests through this tool, those test results being generated are being fed to an RSS feed. This RSS feed can be fed to your RSS reader so that you can continually check kind of at your leisure your news results and see how the tests are running. Make sure there aren't any major errors. So that's TestStar. And I'm sure we're going to have some follow-up videos, maybe with some more detailed explanation, more in use. But for now, this is what it is. You can go to the marketplace, download it, get yourself started unit testing fairly quickly. And the whole point here is to really lower the barrier of entry for unit testing. I felt like for myself, when I started, there were just so many things I had to do and learn and tools, and all that stuff. What I'm trying to do is shortcut it and add value to it so that with a single install you can go from not testing at all, which I have a sneaking suspicion many of you do, to gradually testing more and more, and as you become comfortable with the tool and testing itself, begin to have more and more coverage, because it's the most important thing is that people are able to build with trust and faith in what they've been building and know that it's working. So that's what this tool is all about. Go to the marketplace, download it, plug it in, beat it up, let me know how it goes. Until then, thanks for watching. Have a nice day.